Today on Joy, Juanita Sullivan from Cafe on Vine helps the hungry and provides fellowship for the community.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Scott Reeves, and this is a program where we have the opportunity to explore amazing ministries, amazing people around the Quad Cities to find out more about what God is doing in them and through them. Today, we have the opportunity to sit down with Juanita Sullivan from Cafe on the Vine. And Juanita, what a delight it is to have you join us today on Joy in Our Town. Are you the director of Cafe on Vine?
I am the executive director of Cafe on Vine.
Okay.
And,
well, when I heard about this and I heard the name of this, I thought I need to get really dressed up. I need to get my wife. We're going out for a fancy night on the town, a date. And then I was surprised to find out that it wasn't that at all. So tell us about Cafe on Vine.
Cafe on Vine is basically a blessing, really, but it's a soup kitchen that serves the needy in the area and the homeless.
Okay.
We're located at 932 West 6th Street in Davenport.
932 West 6th Street in Davenport. Okay.
Correct. And it's near a couple of homeless shelters. The location is perfect for our ministry, basically. We serve one meal a day, 365 days a year.
Wow.
And the title is kind of catchy. I do like
I love
Cafe
it.
on Vine,
I love
right?
it. Yeah.
We'll get phone calls from vendors, right, saying, "Do you need this?" You know, and it's just not that type of environment, but what it is an environment of friendliness, welcomeness, and openness to anyone who wants a meal.
That's awesome.
And we don't, one of the beautiful aspects, I think, of the cafe is that we don't require any identification. We ask of no names. We count visitors by the trays they take. And everyone's required to take a tray, and we want to respect their dignity and identity. So you can come on in and have a meal anytime you like, Pastor Reese. So
nice. We'll take you up on that. Thank you for the invite. So tell us how Cafe on Vine got started. You kind of started unpacking some things that really intrigued me. I want to talk about during our time together. But how did it get started, and who started it?
Okay. Actually, this year, 2017, will mark our 10th anniversary.
Okay, so you're 10 years old.
Right. And we started in November of 2007. And prior to that, Cafe on Vine was Cafe John Lewis.
Okay.
And John Lewis Community Services owned the building that we're in now.
Okay.
At that time. And we were not Cafe on Vine until we became a 501c, and that really originated under Thomas Merton House Incorporated. And that started with Monsignor Marvin Moddett.
Okay.
And God bless his soul. And then Sister B. Snyder, who is from the Humility Sisters of Mary, was able to start the cafe. And when John Lewis ended up having some financial woes, we were able to take over the operation and rent the building from John Lewis.
Wow.
And then it was in September of 2008 when John Lewis closed all their services. We then worked with Wells Fargo and had some major fundraising and bought the building.
Oh, wow.
So
congratulations.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That was in December of 2008.
Okay.
So we were able to maintain operations through that time. So I'm looking forward to celebrating our 10th anniversary this year.
That's exciting.
So,
that is really, really neat.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about, and you mentioned right off the bat, located near a couple of homeless shelters, is that the primary source of clientele? They come from there, or do they come from different areas?
Our guests are definitely from both of the shelter areas.
Okay.
King's Harvest and Humility of Mary Shelter.
Okay. Sure.
But we also have a number of guests who are what we consider our regulars, and they come from the neighborhood area. And we serve probably an average of about 105 a day, or excuse me, 145 a day through that time. So many of them are regulars, some are passing through. There's guidelines at shelters on your time frame that you can stay, that type of thing. So you do see a little bit of turnover in guests, but the regulars, they know the routine, and they're very, very welcoming to others, helping them to know about it. I think a lot of our advertising is word of mouth, you know, basically of who needs that type of assistance.
Yeah. So do you see then what you're doing in partnership or in coalition with those homeless shelters? Now, at the homeless shelter, do they also provide meals and you provide a part of that? How does that work?
How that works is King Harvest, there is some duplication. Wednesday and Fridays, they do a noon luncheon, okay, at King's Harvest. The other days, they do not. Salvation Army does evening meals.
Okay.
So that works out well. I know that the Humility of Mary shelter gets a number of donations, but they don't necessarily have meals. Now, if it was a holiday, like this year Christmas and New Year's landed over the weekend, Salvation Army was closed, so then we would provide meal that for the shelter. Okay, so we would provide 90 meals for them to have at the shelter. So we do partnership and try to communicate effectively in terms of what's happening, who's not going to serve a meal. But the cafe is usually the one that is every day, and we know that we can get them one nutritious meal a day,
That's
guaranteed.
amazing.
Yeah. So
145 every day.
Average.
365 days a year.
Average, okay? Beginning of the month, 100, 125. Latter in the month, 180, 190.
Really?
So, you know,
So you could feed up to almost 200 people at one sitting.
right, and it's amazing. Our operations, the dining room will hold 52 people.
Okay.
It's interesting to see how
They shift
quickly they
them
shuffle through. Right.
That's amazing. So tell me about this whole 365 days a year thing. So holidays, you have people that come out, they're leaving the comfort of their home, they're leaving their own families, they're leaving their meals, and coming and serving the homeless and the needy.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Our operation is small. We have 2 full-time staff members, myself are included in that too.
Okay.
And then we have 2 part-time, what I call kitchen managers. Well, Lori Jones is our full-time kitchen manager, incredible. And then the 2 part-time people help. They rotate on the weekends, so we always have a staff member there on Saturdays and Sundays. Throughout the week, Monday through Friday, there's probably an average of about 50 volunteers. We call them the Monday group, Tuesday group, Wednesday group, and that come in and help us.
How many volunteers on an average day does it require?
Ideal is it's to have 8.
8, okay.
Besides the head
And they
cook.
all have their responsibilities, and they just kind of plug right in.
Part of the management piece of the head cook or the kitchen manager and myself and the other part-time staff is to direct them whatever we need them to do. But there's regular duties, you know, we have the dishes, the serving, the dining area, you know, bussing up tables, clean up, all of that goes into
It's like
it.
quite an operation.
It's really seamless when you get a chance to spend any time there. However, we could not do it without our volunteers.
Sure, absolutely.
We estimate at least probably 500 volunteers throughout a given year, either they're on a regular basis or come once or twice a year. The weekends, I have 1 part-time volunteer who organizes our parishes, the churches, and the groups that come in.
Okay.
And the Saturday, Sunday meals, the parishes and I should say just organizations bring in the food, donate the food, serve the food, clean up with one of the staff members.
Wow.
And it is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I like to think that we have 5 kind of Cafe on Vine staff because that one volunteer organizes those weekend
Sounds
groups.
like a lot of work.
Yeah.
I know around our house we have like 6 people that would gather around the dining room table, and that the mealtime is quite a production. And you guys are feeding sometimes up to 200 people. And there's so much that you're doing, and it's really exciting to hear. I want to talk about a lot of the different aspects that you've already brought up, but let's go into, we'll unpack everything, but let's go into that kitchen real quick.
Okay.
And I mean, who's planning these meals, and what's an average meal look like?
What that looks like is we have 2 entrees, they get a choice.
Okay.
They have 2 sides, they get a choice. And then they have either a juice or milk at the serving line. And they get their dessert first, actually, and then they pick up a tray. But then they come through, and as they enter the dining room, there's a salad bar to the left. And there's always fruit and veggie, bread and peanut butter, different things, and then coffee and water in the dining room. And they can have as much of the salad bar items as they like. Yeah, 2 entrees, 2 sides, and then they get a choice. Lori Jones, as I mentioned, is our kitchen manager, and every week, every Thursday, she plans out the meals for the next week.
I need to put her in touch with my wife.
Okay.
And a lot of wives around the Quad City. That's always, menu planning is a big issue.
That's right.
And that sounds like a really big job.
I know on Thursdays, that's the time where Laura will say, I'm going to go to the office. I need to just, have some quiet time to plan some things out. And there's a couple of volunteers, one in particular that helps her. And they go up to the garage, go up the freezer, and figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you are watching Joy in Our Town, and I am sitting down with Juanita Sullivan of Cafe on Vine in Davenport, and really excited to hear all that you're doing and the lives that are being changed and impacted and affected by the generosity and the willingness of a lot of people. And we're going to be learning more and spending more time with Juanita when we come back right after these messages.
How long have we been married there?
For 76 years.
He was kind and generous to me before we married, and he was kind and generous to me all these years that we have been married. We had been looking at a lot of different houses in different places around that area, and when we came by this house, it was green, and I love green. I'm Irish. And so I said, oh, there's our house. I know it. We decided on Meals on Wheels because at my age, I was getting to the point where I couldn't do all the things that I had been able to do. We're the Spans. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Scott Reese, and today we are having a great time talking to Juanita Sullivan of Cafe on Vine, and you've already helped us see so much and understand so much of what you're doing. And let me very quickly, we'll roll on down the railroad track, but I got to revisit this kitchen one more time. Okay. Because when you talked about menu planning and all those kinds of things, and I want to talk about how you, where you get the food that you serve. But is the food pretty much the same every week, or does that kitchen planner have to really do it in accordance with what you get?
Pretty much with what we get.
Okay. Wow.
And we try not to duplicate week in, week out.
Really?
We do have a couple of food rescue programs that we use, and the Quad City area is doing a great job. I haven't had the opportunity to get involved completely with it yet, but they do have a food rescue partnership.
What does that mean, a food rescue
Which means
program?
that if there's food that, say, restaurants are not using, okay? Not after it's been out on a salad bar, but like let's say there's something like, for example, Red Lobster will use fish, and they'll freeze it. Well, if it's frozen, they don't plan on using it, they will give it to the cafe.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
each week we get food from Kentucky Fried Chicken and Red Lobster. Now through this Lenten season, we have had a historical perspective to do fish on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right?
Sure.
And so Red Lobster is on Fridays. If we don't have enough food, she knows that mac and cheese is going to be a staple. But Kentucky Fried Chicken, maybe every 2 weeks, okay?
In our first segment, you used, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you used the word dignity. And you just now said on Fridays, so we're at Cafe on Vine, we're feeding the homeless, the needy, and we're serving Red Lobster on Friday. Can I just say thank you? Thank you. That's
Yeah,
amazing to me.
isn't-
And what a level of dignity.
That you mentioned, one of the guests came in and was just this past Friday, and he goes, I can't believe that I'm coming in to a soup kitchen having Red Lobster on a Friday. And he said exactly that to me. I said, God bless you. I said, we're very fortunate and blessed to have those type of donations, and that's one piece of the donations. We get veggies and desserts from Riverbend Food Bank because they're free. We buy very, very little food. We get meat often from either churches, which will donate, farmers. We've had a lot of deer meat this past. So Lori is very creative with working and making sure it's tasty. I've learned a lot in the last months that I've been there from her. But then we always take a look at sides, and Riverbend's also been very good about, not all the food pantries can take like your 10-point cans, the bigger cans. But a soup kitchen can, and we do with green beans, pears, canned fruit, anything we can do to keep the variety going. Lori concentrates on the main meal. My job, if when I spend my 3 to 4 hours there in the morning, with not at the office, is usually concentrate on the salad bar. And I like to have salad, but I also like to have, whether we change it up with coleslaw. That day we happened to serve fish. It was coleslaw on the salad bar, but making sure we have enough bread
and hush
those type of
puppies.
things. No hush.
I'm from the South,
Yeah,
so
okay.
like fish without hush puppies,
It'd be ideal, but
that's like jumping into a dry swimming pool. So.
yeah. But we could, in the summer, we process a lot of food. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but we have half a dozen garden ministries from parishes that donate their food. And another probably 5 to 8 individuals who are
So
regular
it's fresh,
donors.
right out of the garden.
Absolutely.
I love that.
But then we freeze a lot too.
Okay, sure.
For the winter months.
Sure.
This past summer, we had so much processed that we had to call St. Alphonse and St. Paul Lutheran to borrow freezer space.
Oh, wow.
And but we're really able to work with the volunteers that do things for us, and it's the volunteers who do all that processing.
You know what I appreciate about what you're doing, and because here on Join Our Town, we talk to so many different ministries, and I see different things, and so many people have so many irons in the fire. You guys do one thing.
That's right.
Why is that? I mean, why don't you have a part of a clothing? Why this particular thing?
We do one thing, and we do it really well.
Okay.
And that's what we've wanted to concentrate on. That's the history of Cafe on Vine. We've had clothes dropped off at our place. We take it to the shelter.
Because that's not your focus.
Right, that's not our focus.
Yeah.
And there's times I think that we can be pulled at our heartstrings, when somebody needs a coat.
Yeah. But I'm sure you have
know,
connections where you
absolutely.
can say, hey, go over here and they can help
Use
you.
those services.
So you're doing this, it's your full-time job. You have another full-time staff person and 2 other part-time people. But you, from our time before, you haven't always been doing this. You've been here
No.
about a year.
Right.
And what were you doing before you came to Cafe on Vine?
I was in higher education. My career had been in marketing and sales and student services, doing academic conduct, academic assistance with students. I was with Ashford University in Clinton, Iowa, in May of this past year. The campus closed. I was always at the campus. Ashford's a predominantly online university, but the campus closed. So through my connections with the Sisters of St. Francis, led me to Sister Ruthie, who was the former director of my predecessor. And I came down, Scott, actually I volunteered a couple of times, and February of this, it would have been just a year ago or so, for the first time. And Lori had me cutting up chicken, and it was cold outside, and I remember telling Lori not too long ago, I don't think that this is something, I went to bed that night so tired, thinking, I don't think this is for me. It took a second time to go down and volunteer. And the spirit,
and you were hooked.
I was hooked. The spirit of the volunteers, their energy, their dedication, and to really talk with them about our environment. And it is a very family-oriented place. And that's what you get hooked on. And then you have our guests saying thank you, right? We have very, very little disruption within the community. Again, the guests know the drill.
Yeah.
And the ones that are our regulars usually are watching out for the other regulars, and they know if there's something odd that, you know, in the environment. But
they're street smart.
Yes,
and they're picking up on
you
it.
bet,
and,
you bet.
Hey, let's talk very quickly about your volunteers. I know that what they're doing, the way that they give of themselves this season, has to be changing their life and impacting them. What do you see in those that are new volunteers, and how things kind of move down the road? And are you seeing?
Thank you for asking that, by the way. Again, the cafe could not operate without our volunteers. And the ones that were the veterans, believe me, they were checking out the new director as I came in, okay? And I was getting to know them, but
you were on the hot seat for a little while.
And I had big shoes to fill. So so they were watching me as vice versa, but most of their comments is that when they are away, many of them are retired, and so some of them are snowbirds, right, or take the extended vacation through the winter months. But the comments that come back is that, I miss this place. So good to be back.
Oh, that's
and
great.
That real relationships at work are a true blessing. And that's the only thing that really, I think that drives me, you know, and I think that's what happened in former career, that it was a family-oriented environment, and the cafe definitely has that, but it's because of the volunteers.
Now, do the volunteers have the ability to, I mean, are they just serving? Do they pray with?
Oh yes, we have a many of the members have done, your Christian experience weekends, CEW type of things. And one of the volunteers makes sure that there's CEW pamphlets, that our guests can take. There's been stores.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
The actual guests that you're serving, or the volunteers that are helping?
For our guests, if they choose to go to, one guest sponsored was willing. Now I don't know if it came full circle.
But the guests can go to CEW. Well, tell us about CEW.
Well, I'm not connected with it. Well, I've gone on
it's a weekend of experience.
Right, with
What's
different
it stand
parishes. Christian Experience Weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. The one I've attended was at St. Anne's, and it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning type of weekend. But the volunteers take active part with getting to know the guests to the extent that we don't want to get too personal, right?
But they have an opportunity to,
Right.
So give us, and we only just have a little bit of time left, but give us an example of how you see this ministry, Cafe on Vine, impacting your guests that come in.
It's an experience that when you're with them, and the cordialness, I think, of the volunteers and the staff, and I think the love, really, that they're giving the guests, it's that one time out of their day where they can come into a friendly, safe, warm environment, laugh, have food, and enjoy each other's company. And last week I offered a young lady a cup of coffee, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh my, that would be wonderful. I went to get a cup of coffee this morning, I didn't have enough change." And I don't know how I'm really impacting her, but she said, "You just made my day." Well, little did she know, she turned that around in me, right? Made my day. I think that we take a lot of things for granted in life. And
you're right.
When you're in those types of environments, it makes you very, very thankful. And the gratitude that you have for the things that you have in your life. It's not about the I have nots. It's about the I haves.
So I'm listening to you, and I'm just imagining and seeing. So here's someone that life is, they're beaten down, they're broken, and they don't know what their future looks like. A lot of unknowns, and they walk right into Cafe on Vine, and all of a sudden you've lifted them up, and they're important, and they count.
That's the goal.
And they're treated like royalty.
That's right.
I love that. So very quickly, we're about to close, but if someone wants to get involved, I'm assuming you have openings for volunteers, and I would assume if people want to financially donate to you, they can do that.
Absolutely.
Why don't you look into that camera right there and tell us how they can do that?
All right, Cafe on Vine, www.cafeonvine, all one word, .org. Please go to our website. Our telephone number's there. Ways that you can volunteer, items for donation, and of course there's always the financial aspect. So we've been very heavily supported in volunteerism, food donations, and also financial donations. So if you'd like to get involved, please check us out. Again, we're at 932 West 6th Street, Davenport. Phone number there is 563-324-4472.
That's great.
All right.
Juanita, it's been a pleasure having you today
Thank you
here.
very much.
And
We appreciate
I can't close
it.
without saying this. We have a mutual friend,
Yes,
a lady
we do.
in my church that volunteers there, and I have found out that you like cherry pie.
I do. All thanks to Piper. So,
Yeah,
all
so
right.
you and I at least
Thank
have that
you.
in common, right?
Yes, we
So,
do.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for your
You
time.
have been watching Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Scott Reese, and today we've been sitting down with Juanita Sullivan from Cafe on Vine in Davenport, Iowa. And we look forward to discovering more amazing opportunities and organizations around the Quad Cities right here on Joy in Our Town. See you next time.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telephone dollars. For continual support and keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.